I did written and oral analysis of areas and reported to commander and staff.
Okay.
And higher headquarters in some cases.
Okay. On what type of things?
Oh, discipline items.
Okay.
Training.
Okay.
Flight records.
Okay.
Anything you could think of that might be a problem or something we had questions about, I would just
okay.
dig into them for the commander, and sometimes it'd take me a week, sometimes it would take me a month.
Yeah.
To figure it out, and it was before computers, so.
Oh right, yeah.
I was able to.
About 10 times the work, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That took you longer, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you just entered Fort going to Nodomine, and that's probably Nodomine's probably 3 miles from here, but we'll not be able to get there today because of the lockout.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this road's no wider than it was back in those days. They didn't use stripes. If we were on the north end of the Carbon Fuel Company, I can remember when they built the, barely remember. I probably remember more about people talking about it. I can remember that when they blasted and built the road up through Nabob.
Okay.
Now, the railroad over here, and there used to be a couple houses over there.
Okay.
And they were railroaders.
Okay.
Now there used to be a family live in here, and there was a nice house. That was the Lynches.
Okay.
And then we started what we call Silk Stocking Row.
Okay.
Now right here would have been the first house. That was Mr. Wright.
And I'll get.
Had a son that became a general in the Army, 2-star general. The next house was Barker's.
Hold on 1 minute there. I'll get that. I wanted to get your talking on there. And that's where the 2-star general
came from.
Came from right here.
Lawrence Wright. My dad and his dad and I took him to the train station when he enlisted.
Wow.
And now after the Wrights and the Barkers, I can't remember, there was different people lived through here, but there was about 6 or 7 of these green houses. You can see here's 2 more of them.
Okay.
Hello.
Hey folks. Hi. Now what is that house right there?
That was, they called those the Silk Stocking Row. There were about 7 of those houses.
See, if you could say that again, I got a movie of that, and then okay.
I say there was about 7 of those green houses, and they called it Silk Stocking Row because usually the people were bosses instead of regular mine workers. Then they built a couple little new ones in here. One was built for a new boss they brought in the early 50s. And as to why they built the second one, I don't know, because this place started losing people and work. If you turn around and look up the mountainside there, you will see where they have stripped the top of the mountain and made a road down through here. And that used to be, if I remember correctly, that's Turkey Pin Holler. And at times they say, I don't remember them, but there used to be gypsies come up here and meet in there. But there was also a couple of houses up in there.
Okay, and that is what is that again now? That's the Turkey Holler?
Turkey Pin Holler.
Turkey Pin Holler, and that's where gypsies would come up in there.
Yeah. But now I can't remember that.
Okay.
I just really can't. I remember
talking
about it. This is the result of them changing the water flow by strip mining.
Can you say that again, sir?
I said this is the result of the strip mining where they changed the flow of the water.
That doesn't look that good.
And starting along in here, just past that Turkey Pin Hollow, was, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 houses. one of them was a big house, 2-story, and the rest of them were, some of them were made into a duplex, all under one roof, and some of them would be single units, and that's where the regular workers would live through here. A bunch of good people lived through here. I remember them, Buzzards and Hemitex, Millers, Wits. I can't begin to think of all of them because coal miners came and went across the creek.
What do you mean by that, coal miner?
They'd work here a few years, and for some reason or other would leave or get fired, and they'd go work at another coal company, and you'd turn around and come back here. And then, of course, people migrated from Kentucky, for sure I know about, because that's what my dad did. He went from Alabama to Kentucky working coal mines, and then from Kentucky over here to West Virginia. Then during the war, we moved back to Kentucky for 2 years, and then we came back to West Virginia, and this is where all of us grew up then.
Okay.
This, what's left up here now are trailers or makeshift homes. You can see it's quite pretty over here on this side. The people fixed it up. Windmills. Now we're approaching Wevaco. Wevaco was W-E-V-A-C-O, meaning West Virginia Coal. Across here, between the creek and the railroad, was a bottom, we called it. It was a wide enough place that we could play softball games, and as a little kids we played war. And then one old fella by the name of Rich Conley had some hog pens over here, and somebody else had a garden. And then you came up on the first house somewhere along in here on the right, and you crossed the creek, and there'd be a school bus stop up over the railroad, and that started houses. Well, over there on the other side of the railroad track was the Kirks, and I can't remember all the names. I'll tell you some of the names and where they lived. There was a guy by the name of Buddy Workman lived over there. A man by the name of Keeney lived over there, and his father lived back in there a little ways. There was two family of Crockett's lived over there, and another family or two. And the last house on the right was the last of a row of about 6 houses. Then there was a garage, and one of the garages belonged to my dad because of the company house and his position as a chief electrician. And then there were about 3 more houses on the side of the hill. The further up through here you go, the next 100 yards, there was 3 houses, and they just kept setting a little higher on the hill. I can remembering when killing hogs here, people killing hogs, and me being so interested, I had to stick my nose in and watch them gut it. And they paid me money to get rid of the intestines, and I sold them to some black people one up in here, which was the black village, and they paid me $2, and they came down and picked them up. So I made $4 getting rid of 2 tubs of intestines, and never had to touch them. But I lived over here approximately probably about 60 yards across here. There was a footbridge with no railing on it, and I remember coming home in the dark and getting down and crawling across it to keep falling off in the creek. The creek looked a lot smaller in those days than it does now. Let me pull over here, okay, and let's just take a look.
Yeah.
be off as much as... I might be off mark here of 25 to 30 yards since there's nothing to sing. The creek was wider than this, and that little road was over there, and then houses set up on the hill. I'm going to take a look up here. You just can't get over there without having... You could get over there if you had the right clothes on. But that looks pretty familiar over there. There's no trees there. And that could be where one of the big houses sat, or it could have been our house. And that's where our garden spot was. I can't tell. I believe this was the last house in that row.
Okay. And who lived over there at that time?
Back in those days, it was Mrs. Cole and her daughter, which I think was considered to be an old maid, as much as I remember. I'm not sure, but I don't know of her ever being married.
So how old were you when you lived here?
I was 18 and a half.
Okay. And what was it like here? I mean, what was a day like for you growing up here?
Oh, play, you know. Of course, my dad was one to give us duties to do. We had to get wood in. We had to bring coal up for the fireplace in the winter. Coal for the stove water heater. The stove water heater heated a big cylinder of water, and that's how we got our hot water. Before that, it was just heated in the side of the stove or that small pipe. And we didn't take as many baths as we do today. And that's the truth. But we were one of the few houses up in Weevaco that had a bathroom in the house. We had a furnace and we had steam heat. I also was one of the few.
Steam, where'd you get the steam from? Do you have a fire, or how?
Well, the furnace, the water was heated in the furnace and passed up the pipes.
Okay.
As needed. Yeah, I knew the Kirks. I can't remember the man's first name, but I knew that Lou moved in there. I think his last name was Lusher. Is that correct?
I don't know on that, on Lusher. Yeah. Thomas Howard was...
Garnet Ross was their stepmother.
Stepfather, yeah, step-grandfather, yep.
Stepfather to the twins.
Yes.
And then there was a daughter, Blanche, but now I don't know to whom she belonged.
And that was Mitchell Goebel's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
And I just happened to see them. We probably played a little ball with them, but they were at least, I think, 3 or 4 years younger than us. And but I remember stopping there after I got in the service and speaking to them. And over the years, as they come to Carbon Fuel Reunion, I always greet them. They greet me, and we remember things at Weevaco as coal miners' kids, and we have great respect for our past, especially here at Carbon Fuel.
And what was that like? What would a day like have been for you guys, you know, your kids?
There was a slate dump over here. We'd play on it. We might go up on the tram road. We might hike around into Abbott's Holler. We might go cut a tree down for some reason or other. We'd play cowboy and Indian. We'd play war. We had a place over here we called it the Dark Forest. There was grapevines had grown in the trees, and I would say that was about 15 by 25 yards, and it was like a canopy. It was thick. It would be darker than just dusk dark, and the sun would shine through, and you could see the beauty of the land, because it was basically clear. There wasn't much growth in there other than the big trees that was holding up the grapevines. But we'd play in there, and they had when we moved here in 46, 6 from Nabob, Eddie and I being so close together, they were going to initiate us into the Dark Woods group, and we had to smoke a cigarette, smoke a pipe, and chew tobacco. Well, I got through the cigarette and the pipe, but the tobacco made me sick, and I never was so sick in my life. So I never smoked, or never chewed again. I may have had a few cigarettes on and off, but I never smoked as a habit until I got 33, and then I started smoking cigars. This could pretty well be where that bridge was. It came across and then turned like an L. The L went on up to Notamine through United, which was another coal company. United belonged to Truex Traer, so that little 1 mile area of United was not carbon fuel, and sometimes there was a little bit of I won't say trouble, but there was a little bit of tension between the two communities' children. I don't think there was ever any between any adults that I know of. But we were quite proud of having a swimming pool, a ball fields, organized little league, a boxing arena, a theater, and they didn't have that. And so they used it. I don't know that anybody had any hard feelings over that or anything, because that would have been foolish, but they used it. They were there, and we all partied together, went to school together. But on occasion, there'd be a little tension over it. I don't know why. I never had any animosity toward any of them. But got some good people up there and good friends through all the years. But there was a big cleaning plant just above the store here, a couple 100 yards. And that cleaning plant washed all the coal.
No, they...
Okay. I think I've got it here. This is I think sort of the divide of the two mountains that come together, and to the right would have been about, I'm going to say, pretty close to 100 yards over there, would have been the Crowders, and then there would have been the Kirks, and that was a boarding house, and also the Wilcoxons lived there before the Kirks. And then next to them was a little old building that was on their lot. It was at one time a doctor's office, and I think at one time there was a couple lived in it.
Okay.
Then across a little creek was the Mulkeys.
Okay.
And that was a boarding house also. Then it dropped off the hill and started with the Crockett's, going down to the railroad crossing where the Kirks lived. Kirks were the first house on your right, or on your left as you turned up. And there was 2 houses past the Crowder, and the last people I knew that lived there was Latour. Salvador Latour's brother. I don't remember his first name.
There.
Okay. Now, when we were kids, this creek was much wider than this and wasn't as rough, and all these rocks weren't here. That came later years. But we would take ironwood tree we'd cut. It'd be a couple 3 inches round and pretty strong, and we used them as long jump. What's the word?
Pole vault or
pole vaulting. And we would pole vault across the creek and up on the railroad and up on the road, and just anywhere we could go with those things. We had a ball going up and down the area, and sometimes on the hillside we'd use them. Any place there that you could get a pole down and take a big jump. And that's about all we knew about something that would qualify as a track item. We didn't have track in high school when I went.